and welcome back to another video. My name is RupkathaBhattacharjeeofficial and you're watching my channel which is named after me because I do not have a modicum of creativity and I'm not going to be spending time coming up with a name for a channel where I post on once in a blue moon. So in a poll that I put up many months ago, y'all voted that you wanted to see my reaction to 1-star reviews of my favorite books. So here I am. We are just going to ignore the time that it took me to make and upload this video. Anyways, so why don't we start right off the bat with my first favorite book, which is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. Not a big surprise for people who have seen some of my previous videos because I am pretty sure I have spoken about She Who Became the Sun about 500 times in my previous videos. So She Who Became the Sun is a reimagining of Shu Chongba, one of China's emperor's rise to power. Here, Shelley Parker Chan imagines Shu Chongba to be assigned female at birth. And Shu Chongba is this young peasant girl who goes to a clairvoyant along with her father and her brother. And the clairvoyant promises that her brother, who is actually named Shu Chongba, the peasant girl name is never revealed to us. So the clairvoyant promises Shu Chongba that he is going to reach greatness. He is going to achieve a lot of things and he's going to change the world. He's going to be a household name. If you've ever read Ulysses by Lord Tennyson, there's a line, "I am become a name." That's the kind of thing that the clairvoyant promises Shu Chongba. And to the peasant girl, the clairvoyant promises that her destiny is to fade away into nothing. And obviously the girl is very disheartened by this. She is disappointed. She wants to be something too. But alas, she accepts it as it is what it is. But when after an attack from bandits, both her father and Shu Chongba die, the young girl takes the decision to kind of steal her brother's name and therefore steal her brother's destiny. Using that name of Shu Chongba and pretending to be a young orphan boy, Shu Chongba, or previously the peasant girl, moves to a monastery and starts her new journey into becoming something. So why don't we start with the very first review? No book for a hetero white European male, I guess. At the end, I really disliked the main character. I mean, no wonder you disliked the main character. You know, I find this ideology that one should be the target audience for every book that they read very weird. I mean, reading is meant to open up the outer world to you, to show different perspectives to you. This sort of entitlement to see yourself represented in any book that you read is something that is very icky to me, for the lack of a better word. Personally, I like to read books that are written by people who are different than me, people who have different perspectives, may that be class-wise, may that be gender-wise, may that be religion-wise, or in any form whatsoever. Because as individuals, we all have diverse and varied experiences, and literature is one of the best mediums to celebrate those differences. But I guess some people are really so used to seeing themselves in every form of media that they feel like the absence of their representation in a certain book, TV show or movie is the end of the world. I mean, no wonder they dislike the main characters of the novel. Moving on to the second review, I used to be the only person who, a lot of typos, who just didn't take to this and DNF. It started off pretty standard, except the chosen one here. It's a starved, misused girl who disguises herself as a boy to survive in a monastery as a novice. Of course, the monk teachers are cruel and hard times ahead. She makes friends with another novice and blah, I lost interest. I had no desire to see how the two of them rise to power, as of course they must. Oh, and she sees ghost. So that's a power of sorts. I don't know, everyone seems to love it. I've got too many other books to read. I mean, you do you, of course. You have your own opinion, you just didn't like the book. But I really hate how contrived this review sounds. This sort of thing where they didn't read past what seems like the first 3 chapters and then they're leaving a 1-star review. My rule is that if I don't read at least 60% of a book that I DNF, I do not leave a review for it because I just feel like I haven't read enough of that book to form a concrete opinion. But I guess 2 chapters are enough for this person to hate it. And at some point I do agree, the beginning of She Who Became the Sun is very slow. It is very expository. You don't get a concrete standing or a concrete understanding of what's going on in the novel until you reach chapter 6 or 7. I can get why the beginning might turn away some readers, but this review, it really feels like the person skimmed over the first two chapters or read a few summaries online and then left a review because it has nothing substantial to say. Alright, next review. Absolutely no. I cannot be made to care about characters who will do anything, betray anyone to attain power. I was increasingly disgusted with the characters as the story progressed, and that, combined with how boring it was, made it such a letdown. I can definitely agree with this review. Some people really just don't like characters who are extremely power hungry or morally grey characters, unless of course they're a black-haired white man who will do whatever it takes to reach their own goal, no matter how deplorable that may be. I actually did go through this person's account to see what kind of reviews that they leave for other books, and I saw that their reading taste usually gears towards more happy-go-lucky books that are light, books that don't really discuss or have very serious themes. So for a person who reads that type of books, She Who Became the Sun will be a very heavy read because of the myriads of triggers that you will come across, but also because our main character is just a bit mentally unwell. And that would be the understatement of the century, but let's just leave it at that. Alright, let's move on to the next book, which is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. All Boys Aren't Blue is a memoir and it is one of my favorite books. If you watch my video where I speak about my favorite books of 2022, you will see me talking for like 5-6 minutes about George M. Johnson's memoir. It is a coming-of-age novel meant for a teenage audience, one that I like very much. It discusses race and gender dynamics, a lot of political issues, a lot of things that are going on in the American political climate right now. It is specifically very geared towards the American teenage readership. Some people who do not live anywhere US adjacent, are not very well versed with its politics, will find themselves left a bit out of the loop. But if you're looking to try something new, a memoir that has a very different perspective from the life that you live right now, All Boys Aren't Blue will be a wonderful read. It's an eye-opening read, one book that I recommend to everybody who asks me what to read to, if they want to read a biography, a memoir, an autobiography, anything of that sort. My go-to recommendation is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. Alright, let's read the first review. Really hated this book. Couldn't get through it. Definitely YA. The writing genre should maybe be called Millennial Snowflake. I like this declaration of definitely YA. It's like they're making a proclamation and everyone's like, no shit Sherlock, it's a YA book, that's why it reads like YA. Yeah, it's definitely YA because it is a YA book. What do you mean by definitely YA? Did you read the book to like check it? Couldn't you believe your eyes the first time where it's literally written young adult memoir? I am a bit confused. But I do like the creativity of the insult. Writing genre should maybe be called Millennial Snowflake. I am going to be using that insult. Not unironically, but ironically, Millennial Snowflake sounds like a very good insult. Next review. Boys are boys, XY, girls are girls, XY, trust the signs, that's it. Anything else is abnormal or in your head that's literally on the same spectrum as autism or schizophrenia. Stop indoctrinating our children. A moment of silence for this person's intelligence or whatever they're trying to do, because I really don't understand. I went through their profile to see what kind of books they like to read, and all I saw was they had left a similar review on a similar book written by a black author. What kind of a person this troll is? They are a troll, they're not even a person. I'm pretty sure it's just a bot or something like that. Alright, next one. Not very relatable, but quite enlightening. 1 star. I am a bit confused. Is relatability a factor that others use in reviewing their books? Because personally, it's not a factor that I use, not a factor that I really even think about. Because let's be honest, as a brown teenager from India and as an avid fantasy reader, I don't see many people in fantasy books that I relate to. Half of these people are going outside alone after 9 p.m. I'm not even allowed to go outside before 9 p.m. And if it was enlightening, why did they rate it 1 star? Was it like enlightening in a bad way, enlightening in a good way? Just they're generally annoyed at it being enlightening? I'm quite confused actually. Let's move on to my third favorite book, which is the last book in this video because I'm too lazy to come up with a few more favorite books. It's a hard task. So it's The Mill on the Floors by George Eliot. George Eliot is one of my favorite classic authors. I just adore her works, the way she presents her female characters, the way she weaves her stories around day to day actions, all of it together. The Mill on the Floors is one of my favorite books that I read in my childhood. I read it when I was 10, 11, around that age. Brought up on the Dollicott Mill along with her brother Tom, Maggie is a headstrong, intelligent woman who is desperate to win the approval of her parents. But unfortunately, living in the time that she is, most people do not value her intelligence or her nature because of her gender. It is one of my favorite Victorian novels because of the character Maggie, the way she is, her personality is very charismatic, it's enthralling. Maggie born between three men in her life. Her brother Tom, whom I like to call Tom a cringe fail loser because through the entirety of the novel, he is not really up to anything and a bit worthless. But to Maggie, he is the one who puts up the stars and the sun and the moon in the sky. But Maggie also has this budding friendship with the son of the person who is trying to take their family's mill away from them, and there's another suitor who catches Maggie's attention, and overall she's just torn between these three men and the dilemma of choice. And she also has to come to terms with a society that does not value her for who she is and only sees her as a woman. She could be a genius, but before all of that she would still be a woman. Many people say that this is George Eliot's autobiographical novel. I do not know much about that, but I do want to read more about it in the future. Honestly, I read this book so many years ago, I don't remember much about it. I just remember loving it absolutely. The ending is gut-wrenching, but it's one of my favorite things ever. And the ending is one of the biggest critiques of this novel because some people say that the ending did not really resolve all of the problems that were going on. It was a deus ex machina that allowed the writer to end the story without really solving all the conflicting plot points that were existing in the novel. Alright, enough of talk, let's start with the first review. Definitely not my favorite Victorian novel. I enjoyed some of the themes and some of the scenes in the second half, but I found the pacing strange and very slow at the start, and the ending frustrated me. I really enjoyed the ending, but I can definitely see, as I previously mentioned, it's a big factor of critique, the ending. I can see why people don't like it. And honestly, if I reread it right now, I don't think I'd enjoy the ending as much as I did previously. It's more childish nostalgia that makes me love the novel as much as I do. But I am pretty sure if I read it now or in a few years' time, I would be more skeptical of the plot points or changes that happen towards the end. I found this to be dry and dull. I was indifferent to nearly all of the characters. It took me more than 2 months to read it, but then the ending was unexpected and heart-wrenching. The ending almost redeemed the rest of the narrative because it was so different from what I was expecting. Almost, but not quite. Alright. I think Mill on the Floors is a very hit or miss novel. You either love it or you don't like it. There's not much in between scope for a novel like The Mill on the Floors. But the characters were some of my favorite parts about this novel. I can't really see how someone would dislike the characters in The Mill on the Floors. But you know, all kinds of people in the world. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Okay, this one's a spoilery review, so if you have not read The Mill on the Floors, skip to a few minutes forward, I think, just 1 or 2 minutes forward. Young woman bears the consequences of other people's stupidity, then dies. Is this even fiction? I think I agree with this review because if Maggie did not die in the ending, I think that the ending of the novel could be much more impactful. The ending could have been more memorable. I mean, this is a very solid, memorable ending. It ends with the death of both Maggie and Tom while they're traveling to go save the mill. It's a huge storm outside. Both of them drown in the storm and they die. But if in an alternate reality, George Eliot wrote a different ending where all the plot points are resolved, where we actually see Maggie go through all the three men in her life, all the people in her life, and make a choice for herself, take a stand, it would have been much more interesting. But I think the very dichotomy that existed when women writers were writing their books, especially one of the reasons why George Eliot had to write with the pseudonym of George Eliot, was that if you were a woman in fiction, you had to either end up married and happy and pregnant, or you had to die. There was no in between, and there wasn't much of a scope for female writers who were writing female main characters and wanted to explore a lot of different possibilities. There just wasn't the scope for that. So not only do I see the reviewer's point, but I also think that the other possibility that one would expect about that ending is much worse than what we actually got, and wouldn't really have made much of a change to Maggie's character arc as a whole. Anyways, these were my reactions, pretty underwhelming reactions to 5-star reviews of my favorite books. Maybe I'll post a video again when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. But this was it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. Comments can be literally anything. They feed me, they nurture me, so please leave a comment. Thank you for watching. Be safe and goodbye.